Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Humanized Automation. I'm your host, Dr. Jill Schiffelbein, and on this episode, I get to geek out with all of you for a little bit and really go into some of my beliefs and thought processes behind and the lens through which I see this era of generative AI that we are in right now, especially as it pertains to how we can use these techniques and technologies and tools to humanize automation. And then also talk to you about what I feel is something that people often miss in terms of when they see something cool and flashy and hot and sexy and, ooh, I want to use this in my business. Not really thinking through that implementation strategically and through the lens of customer experience. So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. Again, letting me put my professor hat on for a little bit and geek out with all of you. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm excited to get started. As I mentioned, I'm going to geek out with you all a little bit and definitely put my Professor Jill hat on for a bit, if you will indulge me, because I want to take you back to 1967. That's right, 1967, where three theorists decided to kind of establish the foundational truths of the field of communication, like human communication, the study of it. By that point in time, it wasn't too distinct from psychology, but this book called The Pragmatics of Human Communication, published in, again, 1967, really set us up for the study of communication as a field. And when I think about where we're at now in the study and understanding of generative AI, it kind of takes me back and parallels me to the beginnings of the field of study of human communication. And when we do that, I think it's important to establish some kind of frameworks, parameters, groundwork, axioms, or pragmatics, if you will. So I have come up with my 5 key axioms for generative AI, these kind of 5 fundamental truths that can guide our understanding of, our usage of, our implementations with, and leveraging the power of generative AI tools, synthetic media, and all different types of amazing outputs. So I wanted to start this episode by sharing those as a framework through which we'll be able to see a whole lot of conversations that will come up in this show. Axiom 1, or truth 1, when it comes to the pragmatics of generative AI for me is that AI outputs are only as good as human inputs. Another way to say this is garbage in equals garbage out. AI output is only going to be as good, as useful, as intelligent as what we are putting into it. These systems don't manifest on their own and propagate without any human intervention. There's a lot of human intervention and input that goes into any generative AI output. So when we're looking at and understanding the different ways that AI tools and technologies can help us humanize automation in our business, the first thing we really have to focus on is what are we putting into that system? What are we prompting that system with? What are we providing it from a data standpoint to be able to utilize to give us better outcomes? A lot of times I find that people will start experimenting with a new tool or technology, not having really thought the bigger picture strategy, having not thought their inputs strategically through. And then they say, well, Jill, we tried that. It just doesn't work for us. I call BS. I want to see what you put into it. I want to see how you prompted it. I wanted to see the frameworks that you gave it, because most times it's more human error than machine error in terms of being able to generate an output. So the truth, again, in working and understanding with generative AI is that your AI output is only going to be as good as what you as a human put into it. Axiom number 2 really picks up from the first one, garbage in equals garbage out, is you got to get your data in order. So both the availability and fluidity and the order of your data have a massive impact on the possibilities that you will extract from artificial intelligence and specifically generative AI. This ordering of data and the fluidity of data, data moving between different systems that you have, data being structured in a way that you can easily access it and prompt a system to access it and grab it from one area and put it in another. That is how you are going to be more successful leveraging these tools. That is how you're going to be more efficient creating automations in your business. And that's how you're going to be able to better personalize at scale, better end outputs for your customers. And these customers can be the clients or customers that are purchasing from you, or the people that you're serving, your internal clients, your employees, and your teams. But in order to maximize the leverage and the potential that AI brings, you have to really focus on getting that data in order. So we have one, AI outputs are only as good as human inputs, and two, data, its order and the fluidity of it moving back and forth between systems matters. You can see how those two go hand in hand as being some of the foundational truths or understandings of leveraging generative AI to humanize automation and get outputs that are more efficient and effective for your business. The third principle that I want to lay out for all of you is that I believe generative AI, in the context especially of this show and what it brings and the work that I do with my customers and my clients, is that we should really focus on being strategic around using AI and generative AI as a way to enhance the exchanges that we have with our customers, that we have with our audience, and looking at it as a tool to help us enhance those exchanges by adding in layers of personalization, layers of unique curated content, layers of differentiated context for anyone who is consuming your message. This type of customization is so valuable. It helps people feel like more than a number. It helps make them feel like they belong to something bigger than your bottom line. And it allows them to engage with your brand, with your company, with your leadership, with your management in a more enriched way. This to me is the most exciting promise of generative AI when used well. Again, that's my lens, the customer experience, the human communication, how we interact with this technology. And if we focus on these tools for ways to improve our customers' experience with us, we're going to be able to move ahead faster, because that type of drive will impact the bottom line faster, and you'll be able to see those exchanges taking place. When we're thinking of the solutions that we want to build, how we will enhance the exchanges between our brand and our customers, or whatever audience we are serving and interacting with and communicating with, I think that really leads me to how we think about not only developing it, but putting it into implementation, into use in our business. And that's where I come up with my fourth axiom or fundamental truth around generative AI, is that as we are wanting to implement these changes in our organizations, we first need to focus around how we build these systems, how we make these prompts, how we put guardrails up first for the output that we want to achieve, that end result that's going to be delivered, that deliverable. Build guardrails and frameworks around what's that going to be at its most successful point. What is going to be the most efficient, streamlined way to get the results we want? How do we set up the AI system to deliver those results? Build guardrails first around the output, then look at what could possibly go wrong. I know so many organizations, since this space is relatively new. I mean, if you think about it, ChatGPT, which really heightened media exposure around AI, and there's still so many people that think AI is only ChatGPT, and I break down that misconception all the time, but this has only been mainstream since November of 2022. That is not even 2 years at this point, or is very close to approaching it. And people using the space still approach it with some trepidation, which is understandable. I mean, myself, I started really dabbling in generative AI and synthetic media about 18 months prior to ChatGPT's big release. And even then, when I presented the ideas and the possibilities, people looked at me like I was crazy. And so when they start looking at these tools and think, okay, let's keep this example simple, I want to use ChatGPT to help me do XYZ in my business, they are first thinking about, okay, but if I use it, what could go wrong? What fears do I have about it? What is holding me back? You know, it's like going on the defensive right away. Instead, I challenge you, and that is my fourth axiom here, which is build guardrails around what is effective for your outputs first. Then approach what could possibly go wrong. Because if you're so focused on what could possibly go wrong at the beginning, you're going to miss so much potential for innovation on the output side. And that is merely a shame. And that leads me very cleanly into my fifth and final axiom here. The positive uses of AI have to outweigh the nefarious ones. That is my strong belief. The time for, now I'm going to say a harsh statement here, the time for ethical debates on whether this should exist or not is over to me. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't merit in debates from a philosophical level, etc., like there are about all things throughout human history. But right now, for those of us focused in the action-oriented world, for the we want to leverage these tools, for the we want to advance our business faster, for we want to have our customers have better experience, we want to personalize at scale, we want to really harness the potential here, we really need to encourage the advancement and innovation that come with positive uses, because if we stop developing generative AI, the illicit users of these technologies are only going to continue to advance faster. They do not care if we are stopping because it seems like the logical thing to do, or that maybe some restraint is better. They don't care about that. And the only way we have a chance to combat these negative uses is when we flood the marketplace with positive uses. So if I rewind these 5 axioms, this is the lens, the fundamental lens that I bring to the understanding of generative AI as it pertains to communication and as it pertains to really using these tools and technologies to leverage your advantage when it comes to serving and communicating with your audiences, with your customers, with your employees. To rewind, that is number 1, that AI outputs are only as good as your human inputs, which leads me directly to number 2, which is if you want to advance faster, you got to get your data in order and make sure it is fluid from system to system to system. We can work with APIs, which are essentially like computer program handshakes with each other that, yes, we can play nicely together and transfer data together. Get these things in order so you can advance faster. Then number 3, focus on uses of generative AI in ways that you can actually enhance your existing experience for your audience, for your customers. And to that end, when you're developing solutions, build the guardrails first around what is going to be the most effective to get the outputs that you desire, and then approach it from the what ifs or what could go wrong. Be innovative first and then protect that innovation second, which leads me to the final axiom again, that our positive uses have to outweigh the nefarious. We need to continue developing, innovating, and finding great positive relationship enhancing possibilities for the uses of this technology so that we can not only advance our businesses, but a more broad understanding of the potential and capabilities of these tools as well. Okay, I can take my professor hat off here for a little bit. Thank you for indulging me as we round back to the 1960s, the beginning of the study officially of human communication as a broader field of study, separate from psychology or separate from sociology, and now really letting me position it for you through my lens of how we can most successfully approach generative AI and synthetic media in business environments, especially as it pertains to how we can humanize automation and create better experiences for those that we serve. I want to now talk to you about the overview of customer experience, because you'll be hearing a lot about this in the show. The axioms I just talked about will, of course, be in it. There'll be lenses for the conversations I have with amazing guests that we have lined up. And also, we'll be talking it through the scope of customer experience, or CX, as you may hear it referred to in many conversational exchanges. This can also be your customer lifecycle or customer journey. All of those things mean roughly the same thing. Not to get in a semantic debate here, but they are roughly the same thing in this context. What I find, aside from people first wanting to build around fear instead of looking at outcomes, when I'm consulting with organizations at this stage in the game, is that a lot of them come to me and they're like, look at this tool. It's this beautiful, shiny object. Isn't it sexy? And I'm like, oh yeah, you're not wrong. It is a sexy tool. They're like, all right, we want to use this in business. And I'm like, great. Well, what KPI, key performance indicator, is it tied to? What step of your customer experience is it aligned with? And what is the goal that you want to achieve here? And I'm often met with crickets. Chirp, chirp, chirp. They stare at me for a little bit and they're like, well, we want to use this to improve communication. I'm like, well, that's great and nebulous and not useful at all in terms of actually measuring the success of something that is going to be implemented. So what I do is I rewind them and I say, all right, we're going to walk through a framework together. And I want you to think strategically about where exactly along this CX journey does this solution fit? And when I do this, I find that they'll still want to use a tool in most cases, but now we'll have a more strategic way to integrate it, to measure its success, and tie it to specific outcomes, metrics that are already important in the organization. And to me, starting there first and then picking the beautiful shiny tool second is what is going to make you more successful at integrating different generative AI tools and other solutions in your business when you're looking at ways to make your automation more human, to make those communication and those outreach pieces more relationship focused, and of course for giving your team more time to focus on what we do better than computers and always will, is making those genuine human connections instead of dealing with other minutia or steps along the way. Taking that, let's zoom out with me here and let me give you a framework for 4 different areas of your customer's experience with you, their journey with you, that I want you to start considering. And this is the same framework that I walk my clients through. I go way more in detail there in terms of getting them to identify touch points. And a touch point is every single time you have a piece of communication that touches the customer in that journey, those are individual touch points. So each of these 4 stages may have dozens and dozens of potential touch points. That's getting really granular. I'm not going to ask you to do that in here with me now in the show, but I want to give you this broad overview so you can start thinking when you're listening to future episodes where the brilliant ideas that these guests are going to bring to the table, where those could actually fit in, what stage in your customer's journey, life cycle, experience, you could actually put this strategy into action right away, because use cases, strategy, and actionable things is what drives me to bring this show to all of you. So starting with these 4 phases or stages, whatever nomenclature you want to use, we start off with discovery. This is really everything up until the first, I say, like 2-way communication with you. That area is a gray area, but this is your marketing, your word of mouth, your website, your digital presence, your media presence, all of those different things go up into how a customer, potential customer at this stage, discovers you. Once then they decide they want to open up a conversation, making this a 2-way dialogue, not only liking or maybe even commenting on your post, that comment bringing into an exchange starts the engagement stage. So we have discovery and then engagement. When we are working with the engagement stage, this is really everything up until a contract is signed or when a purchase button is clicked and a payment is processed, depending if you're doing a service or a product-based industry. Everything in there, this is, wow, oftentimes it can be the longest stage, or it can be really, really short if they've done a ton of discovery and then boom, they're ready to buy a product right away. But all of these touch points in here, let's say it's a physical product, from the experience they're having on the website to when they click, what information you're giving them, what do you give them as a thank you page once their order is processed, what do you give them in terms of a receipt or a confirmation email, what do you do in the interim between when it's purchased to when it's shipped, if you have a product that is being shipped, what do you do after that then in the actual execution stage? This is how the product is delivered or the service is delivered. So they've discovered you, they've engaged with you, they made that purchase, they signed on that dotted line, and now you're in this delivery space. For retail products, there's that gray area between where they've purchased and when they get the product in hand that is ripe for communicative possibilities. These touch points in the short term can really get people excited and motivated to get your product in hand. It makes it almost like a countdown until your product, that box, is going to arrive at their door. There's a lot of things that can be done to humanize this space, but a lot of people rely on the automated, yes, thank you for your order. Yes, your order is shipped. Yes, your order should be arriving today. Those aren't bad things. Please know I'm not dissing those, but there's so much more that can be done. And now with relatively little effort at the onset and then automated the rest of the way. Again, what my passion is and what we're doing on this show. And then finally, after you've delivered that product or service, you go into the final stage of your customer's experience, your CX, which is the continuation stage. It doesn't end when that product reaches their hands. Oh no, my friends, it doesn't end when you're stepping on stage and delivering a keynote. It doesn't end when you are done with the last hourly consulting thing that you have to do for them or you've delivered them the final report. Oh no, it goes into the continuation stage. And this is where you are asking for referrals, getting repeat business, continuing the relationship, getting feedback, all of those different things that are touch points that go into that final stage. Then, of course, it can all start over again where they maybe rediscover something you have to offer, get in that engagement period very, very quickly because they already have an impression and a history with you. And then you have another executable that you're working on together. And then you keep repeating the cycle. Those 4 stages from discovery to engagement when there's two-way exchange to execution when you're delivering on that promise and continuation, what happens after the fact, those are the different areas of your customer's journey with you. And the people who I find and the organizations I find that are not only the most strategic and most savvy, but also most successful for getting leverage from generative AI tools and techniques and technologies faster, and those who are leveraging the power of synthetic media and other outputs that can be combined with data that you already have. They are looking at that whole spectrum of their customer's experience, and they are pinpointing not only one stage, but a touch point within that stage that they're going to try first because they have data on that. It's something that can be measured toward an objective, and they'll be able to see if that solution works. Once it has proven efficacy or success in that, then they go into another area, another singular identified touch point in their experience to see how it does or does not move the needle. That is how you can get true, accurate data on whether or not a solution is working for you. The other thing that they are doing, and this is something that I don't find taught in any customer experience textbooks, but something that I think is just as, if not more important in thinking about your goals as a business owner, as a leader, as a manager, as someone wanting to improve and humanize the experience that you have with your audience, is not only what is the business goal for any stage or any individual touch point, but it's also what do you want your client or potential client, your audience member, to be feeling at that touch point. Let me put it this way. I don't know anyone that gets a warm, fuzzy, excited, happy feeling by seeing an autoresponder from Calendly in their inbox that confirms that a meeting was scheduled. Woo! Don't you feel so loved and so important and so much of an individual? No, of course you don't. It's an automated scheduling response. Again, I am not dissing these. These are actually important. These touch points are essential in your customer's journey. However, with about, 60 seconds of effort, you can go into Calendly or whatever system you use and personalize the page that pops up after someone clicks submit on scheduling a meeting. You can personalize the email that goes out. Now, if you really want to take it to the next level and make them feel super excited, you can hook up the data from your scheduling service with data from your synthetic, custom-created, hyper-realistic avatar, combine those together and get an automatic email to anyone that schedules a meeting with you that is delivered by your digital likeness, including their name, the time and date of the meeting, the purpose for the call, what you want them to do to prepare, and all of that automated. Now, that's the grand scale, right? That is the heck yeah, that is the most amazing goal. And we can get to there. Well, at least it's the most amazing goal right now with the state of the technology. In 6 months, it's probably going to be something even better. But when we look at what is possible to set our customers up for feeling an emotion associated with their journey with us, we get a little more thought process going on about how we want that communication to be received, how we want that communication to appear. It's not only that, yes, we do need to send a touch point confirming the meeting. Yes, that's important. But how can we make that touch point elicit more of an emotion from someone to get them feeling excited for the meeting or curious for the meeting or whatever emotion you want your audience to be feeling? An automated message isn't doing that, but with a little bit of personalization, a little bit of effort, and a little bit of humanizing automation put in your thought processes and your work processes, you're going to be on your way to better serving your customers, forming stronger relationships, and allowing the true humans in your workforce to focus on those connective and dialogue exchanges that really solidify what you have together. Again, really emphasizing what makes us human. Thank you so much for joining me and indulging me as I geeked out a little bit, showing you my Professor Jill lens on how I approach looking at and solving problems with generative AI, because it's so important, I feel, for anyone. If you're going to be invested in a show, which I hope you are in this one, and listening, you need to know the lens at which people present information. You need to understand it in the way that they're processing it, because no two people are alike. So you'll always hear me ask my guests on this show the lens that they are bringing to the conversation, so you can truly understand the background of where people are coming from. And then, of course, thank you also for allowing me to present this framework, these 4 stages of your customer experience, because I believe that as you're listening to the conversations that we'll have on this show, you'll be able now to immediately start to categorize, like, yes, that goes in the beginning part of my customer's journey. That's definitely in the engagement part or the execution stage or continuation. That will start to come to mind, which gives you already an edge up in starting to think strategically about how you can leverage different tools, different technologies, different processes, different data sources to be able to better serve your audience. Because at the end of the day, most of us are in business because what we do and what we provide, we feel it matters to the people who are receiving it. And if we can find a way to make that experience more personalized and more meaningful for them, I think most people are going to be on board with that. And that's why, everyone, I wanted to bring this show, Humanize Automation, to life. I thank you so much for being part of the audience for the second episode. In future episodes, we're going to get directly to interviewing some amazing guests that will bring insights that even surprise me from time to time, which really is what I live for. Thank you again for tuning in. We will see you in the next episode.